when you take lysosome are the cell organelles which are also known as suicidal bags of the cell. So why the name suicidal bag came? Because of the presence of particular enzymes. So these enzymes are the one acidic in nature. So being acidic in nature, these enzymes will destroy water components they'll come across. That's why lysosomes are called suicidal bags of the cell. Then why such dangerous organelles are there in a cell? There should be some purpose, isn't it? That's what the functional aspect of lysosome carries. Now when you see this diagram I explained the endocytosis process. I'll just repeat the whole thing again. When you take endocytosis, this concept we dealt in detail while we discussed plasma membrane function and significance. Now endo is nothing but taking in, cytosis into the cytoplasm. So what will be taken into the cytoplasm? By the plasma membrane. If you assume that this is the plasma membrane of a cell, from outside to inside, some solid particles will move. So here, if you observe these dotted structures, we can assume them as bacteria in this example. So bacteria like solid particles can be taken in through evacuation of the plasma membrane. If you observe, there is a evacuation of plasma membrane through which the particles will get into the cell. The whole part is cell, and this is outside the cell environment. So such process of taking in solid particles is known as endocytosis. Now through endocytosis, the bacteria like solid particles, when they get into the cell, they are called endosomes. So endosomes are nothing but the solid particles which were taken inside the cell by endocytosis. Now when such solid particles, here I said we are assuming them as bacteria, they being harmful to the cell, they have to be destroyed, isn't it? So who will take care of that? Here comes the role of lysosomes. Lysosomes are the cell organelles present in the cell which are formed from Golgi apparatus, or the Golgi complex as a vesicle, and here they gave the name primary lysosome. As of when we discussed the structural aspect of lysosome, what we said, lysosomes are the organelles with acid enzymes, the enzymes which are acidic in nature. So here the primary lysosome stands for the lysosomes which are having acidic enzymes in inactive form. What does mean by inactive form? Inactive form is nothing but the enzymes which cannot act on any substrate. So they are not catalyzing any reaction. Such enzymes we call inactive enzymes. So the primary lysosomes are the one which will contain enzymes, but they are not going to interact with any reaction. So inactive enzyme containing lysosomes are called primary lysosomes. Okay. So here simultaneously through endocytosis, endosomes are formed. Within endosome you are having bacteria-like structures, the foreign molecules. These endosomes will fuse with primary lysosomes after entering into the cell. So as a result, what we get secondary lysosome. So secondary lysosome we can define as the primary lysosome when fuses with endosome will give rise to new structures called secondary lysosome. Then what is the difference between secondary lysosome and primary lysosome? If you take the difference, as of we said, primary lysosome will be having inactive enzymes. They are not involved in any reaction. But in secondary lysosomes, the enzymes get activated and they are going to get involved in reaction. Why the enzymes get activated? Because there was a fusion of endosome, isn't it? So when endosomes get fused with primary lysosome, we get secondary lysosome in which the enzymes get activated. So these enzymes are nothing but the acidic in nature and they will eat away or they will destroy the bacterial particles which are there inside the lysosome. So as a result, what happens? The digested particles which we call as waste material will move out of the cell by a process called exocytosis. Exo here stands for to the external environment. Cytosis, out of cytoplasm. So quite opposite of endocytosis. Say, endo is nothing but taking in and exo is nothing but moving out. Okay. Now, once the digested bacteria were removed as waste to outside, what are the lysosomes which are left are called residual bodies. Residual bodies, in some textbooks, they are referring as even tertiary lysosome. So, primary lysosomes, secondary lysosomes, and tertiary lysosomes. So, when any organism or when any subject exists in more than one form, what we call it as polymorphism. Have you come across this word earlier? Is nothing but always stands for many, isn't it? Morphism, morphological forms or appearance. In general term, appearance we call it in biology as morphology. So when any subject which exists in more than one form, we call it as polymorphism. So here, when you take the lysosome, they're existing in primary lysosome form, secondary lysosome form, and even tertiary lysosome form. So the same lysosome are acting with inactive enzymes in primary lysosomes, with active enzymes in secondary lysosomes. After digesting the waste material, the leftover material, which is called residual. Residual is what? Residual is nothing but the leftover matter, isn't it? So lysosomes shows polymorphism. That's a statement. How can you justify the statement? So lysosomes are the cell organelles which exist or which occurs in more than one form, like primary lysosome form with inactive enzymes, secondary lysosome form with active enzymes, and tertiary lysosomes as residual bodies. So this polymorphism is related to existing or occurring of an organelle in different forms, in different states. Okay, so this is all about endocytosis process, exocytosis process, and polymorphism. So the whole part is just a polymorphism matter. Okay, other than this is the main function of lysosome. Now you got me why lysosomes are having acidic enzymes, even though they are not good for the cell if we think based on the nature of enzyme being acidic, but they're helping the cell in protection, isn't it? It's kind of immunity they're giving to the cell. So that's why they're present. Now, other than that, what other functions lysosomes can perform? So when you take the other functions of lysosome, here autophagy is the word. So autophagy. Auto means what? Auto means by itself. So anything which works by itself, we call it as automatically, isn't it? So here autophagy. Phagy always stands for, or phagus, always stands for eating away. So automatically it will eat away. What it will eat away? The lysosomes when you take, there will be some particles called cellular debris. To explain this word, I take an example like if you have in blood, remember the RBC and hemoglobin etc. parts. RBC are the cells, isn't it? Red blood cells. When you take the RBC, the lifespan in human body, they exist only for 100 to 120 days. After 100 to 120 days, the red blood cells in blood will die off and new blood cells will be produced in your body. That's why they always prefer to the youngsters and healthy persons to donate blood, because your blood cells which are there in your blood, they will regenerate. So it's a continuous process throughout the life. So what happens is, here our idea behind the RBC taking as example is, as I'm saying, RBC cells, they will live for only particular number of days and after that they will die off. Like that, so many other cells are there in the body who will perform particular function for specific time. After them, they'll die off and new cells will be produced. This is a continuous process, kind of life process. Now question comes, what happens to those dead cells or what happens to those wasted cells in the body? So such cells are called cellular debris. Debris means what? Waste material, isn't it? So cell debris, the cells which after performing their function when they die off, or sometimes the damaged cells, such content in the body is called cellular debris. So such content has to be removed, isn't it? See, you can compare this with a crude example. Beside our street and the garbage stains, if they are not cleaned regularly, what happens? We get stinking smell and lot more infections from that garbage tins, isn't it? The same happens within the cell also. So many cells are dying off, so many cells are get damaged within the cell. If they are not removed, they may become harmful to the body itself, isn't it? So such cellular debris has to be removed, which will be done by autophagy by means of lysosomes again. This is very important function of lysosome. The lysosomes, what they'll do, they form autophagosome. So here the phagosome is nothing but the cellular debris will be surrounded by the lysosome. So that's called autophagosome. The own material, the own cell material will be eaten away. That's why the name autophagy. You got the point? Now autophagosomes are formed around the cellular debris and they'll get activated, the enzymes inside the lysosome, and they'll eat away whatever the things are, and they will move away through exocytosis, all the things which were digested by exocytosis. So these are the cellular debris phase which are there in the cell. They have to be digested and removed out through exocytosis, which will be carried out by autophagy. This is the function of lysosome.